From sticky floors to endless scroll, from ticket stubs to just one more. Popcorn to pixels, that's the tale he tells. Jack Tim's dines in where cinema fell. Big screens fading into bedroom glow. He breaks it all down on the show. Here we go.
Welcome to Popcorn to Pixels, the show where we explore the stories behind the stories, from the birth of cinema to the biggest films and series shaping our screens today. I'm your host, Jack Timms, and today we're diving into where cinema truly began. Let's get into it. But before we do that, I just would like to explain something. So, in the last episode, I promised you that I would release a new podcast episode at least once every week. However, I haven't been able to do that, and it has been a good while since my last podcast episode. Reason one, the podcast was started at the time when I couldn't go to work, and because of an injury to my foot, which I have got a short film which kind of hints at the idea as to what happened, but also brings about the reason as to why I started this podcast. Reason two is because I'm now back at work, and basically I've got more responsibilities and I'm unable to do the podcast as frequently, and I'm really sorry. And I also asked you to give me a hand with this. I want this to be a community podcast. I don't want this to just be me rambling on. And to make up for, because I was kind of in talks with someone who had listened to the previous episode and was like, oh, I would like to have a go, but that never got anywhere, so I'm really sorry. There was a potential guest, but that no longer happened. However, to make it up, I do have a friend who is going to be joining a future podcast episode, hopefully the next one, but I'm going to have to say that this probably won't be a weekly podcast. It'll be when it can be done. So I'm going to try and keep the topics appropriate to the podcast, obviously. So forgive me for this bizarre kind of out of place intro, but I thought I would just be honest with you and let you know. Right, okay, let's begin. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine a dark room, a flicker of light, shadows dancing on a wall. Now imagine that this simple illusion, light and movement, would go on to shape how we tell stories, how we understand history, how we dream. Today we're talking about where cinema started. Not Hollywood, not red carpets or Oscars, but candlelit rooms, spinning toys, scientific experiments, and people who didn't even know they were inventing an art form. This is the story of how still images learned to move, and how humanity fell in love with the movies. Part 1. The human obsession with movement. Long before cameras, long before electricity, humans were already obsessed with capturing motion. Look at prehistoric cave paintings. In places like, forgive my pronunciation, La Chaux, France, animals are painted with multiple legs, overlapping positions, almost as if the artist was trying to show motion itself. This wasn't decoration, it was storytelling. Humans have always wanted to answer the same question. How do we freeze a moment and still make it feel alive. Early optical illusions. By the early 1800s, the curiosity turned scientific. Inventors began experimenting with optical toys, many of which laid the groundwork for cinema. One of the earliest was the thaumatrope, a simple disc with two images on either side, like a bird on one side and a cage on the other. When spun quickly, the images merged. Then came the phenakistoscope, a spinning disc and sequential drawings viewed through slits. Suddenly, images moved. Soon after, the zoetrope appeared. All of these toys. A cylindrical device, inside it, drawings of a figure running or jumping, spin it, and motion appeared. No film, no camera, but the illusion was there. Motion had been captured, at least in the mind. Part 2. Photography enters the story. The next crucial ingredient for cinema was photography. In 1839, photography was publicly announced, a way to permanently capture reality using light. This changed everything. But photographs had a problem. They didn't move. Edward Muybridge and the horse. Enter Edward Muybridge. In the 1870s, a wealthy businessman asked him a question that sounds simple, but was revolutionary. When a horse runs, do all four hooves ever leave the ground at once? No one knew. Muybridge set up multiple cameras in a line, each triggered by a wire as the horse ran past. The result? A sequence of photographs, frame by frame, capturing motion, breaking it into time. When viewed quickly, the horse ran. For the first time, motion was not imagined. It was analysed, recorded, and replayed. Muybridge had unknowingly created the first motion study, and arguably the first motion picture sequence. Part 3. Capturing life itself. While Muybridge studied motion, others were chasing a bigger dream. What if we could record life as it actually happens? Etienne Jules Marey, in France. Scientist Etienne Jules Marey invented a camera that could take multiple exposures per second on a single plate. He wasn't trying to entertain anyone. He was studying birds in flight, athletes running, bodies in motion. But his work proved something vital. Motion could be mechanically recorded over time. The missing piece? Projection. Now the question became, how do we show this to other people? Because cinema isn't just recorded motion. Cinema is shared experience, and that required projection. Part 4. Thomas Edison and the kinetoscope. In the United States, Thomas Edison entered the picture. Edison didn't invent cinema alone, but he knew how to commercialize it, how to commercialize ideas. His team created the kinetoscope. It was a box you looked into individually. Inside, a loop of film showing short clips, a man sneezing, a boxer punching, a dancer twirling. These films lasted seconds. There was no sound, no story, no projection, but people paid money to watch them. Cinema had become a business. Still, one thing was missing. Audiences weren't watching together. Part 5. The Lumiere Brothers. That final leap happened in France. Two brothers, Auguste and Louis Lumiere, they invented a lightweight machine called the cinematograph. It could record film, develop film, project film, all in one place. December 28th, 1895, in a Paris cafe, the Lumiere brothers held what is now considered the first public film screening. The films were simple. Workers leaving a factory, a baby eating breakfast, a train arriving at a station. Legend says the audience panicked when the train appeared on screen, fearing it would burst through the wall. Whether exaggerated or not, one thing was clear. The audience wasn't just watching. They were experiencing. They were reacting. Cinema had arrived. Part 6. Cinema becomes story. At first, films were records of reality. But then someone asked, what if we tell stories with this? That someone was Georges Méliès, a magician turned filmmaker. He discovered special effects by accident. Stopping the camera, changing the scene, and continuing to film. Suddenly, people vanished, objects transformed, fantasy became visible. His 1902 film, A Trip to the Moon, introduced narrative structure, sets, costumes, editing. Cinema stopped being a novelty, it became art. Conclusion. Why it matters. Cinema didn't begin as entertainment. It began as curiosity, science, obsession. It was born from people asking, what is movement? What is time? How do we remember life? Every blockbuster today, every streaming series, every viral video, traces its DNA back to spinning discs, flickering shadows, and a train arriving at a station. The movies didn't just teach images to move. They taught us how to see ourselves. And that is all we have time for. In this episode anyway. I hope you've enjoyed listening. And I hope you understand what has happened. Why I couldn't be doing this podcast. At least until now. Thank you for listening. I've been your host, Jack Timms. And I'll see you in the next episode. In the next podcast. Popcorn to Pixels.
From popcorn to pixels, what a ride. He's been your guide on the changing tide. Old screens fading, new worlds on demand. Jack Timms walking you through this strange new land. Popcorn to pixels, that's the show. He asks, where did the movie palaces go? From velvet seats to streaming in our homes, Jack Timms takes them where the story roams. He charts the fall of the silver screen, box office dreams and abandoned foil sheen. And cues now replace the cues. He keeps them thinking with each shifting view. Popcorn to pixels, that's the show. He asks, where did the movie palaces go? From velvet seats to streaming in our homes, Jack Timms takes them where the story roams. Till next time, when the credits episodes, they all know the name. Jack Tim's calling, cut on the old